America's most degenerate incestuous communities. Hidden within certain isolated pockets of the nation lies a dark and disturbing reality, a reality where genetic intertwining between close relatives has produced generations of silent suffering, a legacy few dare to acknowledge. What remains after decades of deformed descendants? The year is 1947 in the heart of Appalachia, that mountainous region spanning several eastern states. Steep mountains and deep valleys forged pockets of isolation where entire communities remained cut off from civilization for decades, sometimes centuries. In a remote valley of Pine Mountain, Kentucky, one such community was established in the late 19th century by three pioneer families, the Hartleys, the Dawsons, and the Mallisters. Extreme geographical isolation, combined with a profound distrust of outsiders, created perfect conditions for unions between close relatives to become not merely accepted but institutionalized as family tradition. Such was the case for the Dawson family, whose dark history only surfaced when public health authorities, alerted by reports of unusual medical conditions, visited the region in 1947. Dr. A. Robert Caldwell, a physician with the Kentucky Department of Public Health, documented his findings in a confidential report archived for decades. "What I found in Pine Mountain defies human understanding," he wrote in his personal notes, and raises disturbing questions about what occurs when communities sever themselves completely from modern society. Led by patriarch Elijah Dawson, then 67, the Dawson family had established a pattern of cousin marriages for at least 4 generations. Over time, this endogamous circle tightened further, yielding unions between siblings, uncles and nieces, and even fathers and daughters. The result was a community where nearly everyone shared a dangerously similar genetic load. Arriving in the valley, Dr. Caldwell was met with hostility. The Dawsons lived in rustic cabins scattered along a mountain stream. "What impressed me most," he reported, "was the oppressive silence hanging over the place. No children playing or running, only suspicious glances from behind tattered curtains." Access was granted only through Martha Dawson, a 19-year-old who had briefly attended school in a nearby town before being forced to return. Born from first cousins who were themselves children of cousins, Martha was among the few without obvious physical signs of prolonged consanguinity. "Doctor, no one from here ever leaves," Martha explained in their first meeting, "and those who leave don't come back. We are different, and they know it out there." The reality Caldwell documented in the following weeks was devastating. Among approximately 40 community members, he identified an alarming pattern: reduced stature, facial malformations, extra digits, congenital heart problems, and, most disturbingly, a high rate of cognitive delay. Of 12 children born in the previous decade, 9 had some degree of intellectual impairment. The emblematic case was Samuel Dawson, age 12, son of first cousins who were themselves children of intermarried siblings. Samuel had a disproportionately small head, widely spaced eyes, short stature, and could speak only a few simple words. His younger brother, Joseph, 8, was born with a serious heart defect and 5 fingers on each hand. "The isolation is not just geographic, but genetic," Caldwell wrote. "Each birth perpetuates and intensifies recessive traits that would rarely manifest in a more diverse population." Patriarch Elijah fiercely defended what he termed family purity. "The Dawson blood is strong," he told the doctor. "We don't need strangers to weaken what we've built here." This belief, Caldwell later learned, stemmed from the family's traumatic past. The first Dawsons fled religious persecution in the 1880s, settling in the remote valley convinced the outside world was corrupt and that separation was key to spiritual salvation. The most alarming situation involved Jeremiah Dawson's immediate family. Elijah's son had married his half-sister, Rebecca. Of 6 children from this union, only 3 survived infancy, all presenting distinctive features: asymmetrical faces, underdeveloped jaws, and severe vision problems. 2 could not walk without assistance due to bone malformations in their legs. Check if you're already subscribed to this channel. Stories like the Dawsons remain hidden for decades. Only here do you have access to in-depth investigations into these families forgotten by official history. Subscribe now to not miss any detail of this disturbing journey through rural America's darkest secrets. Dr. Caldwell's report triggered a broader investigation, revealing similar patterns in neighboring communities. In an adjacent valley, the Hartleys maintained similar practices but on a smaller scale, occasionally allowing marriages with members of other isolated families. This minimal genetic variation resulted in visibly distinct, though still concerning, effects. The Hartleys show us what could have happened if the Dawsons had allowed even a minimum of genetic diversity, Caldwell noted. The difference is significant, though the results remain deeply problematic. In 1949, the case caught the attention of Dr. Elena Fleming, a Columbia University geneticist. With limited permission, she collected blood samples. Her 1952 paper, omitting names and locations, stated, "What we found in Pine Mountain represents an extreme case of genetic drift. When a population reproduces exclusively within a very small group for generations, genetic variants can be amplified or eliminated by chance alone. In the most endogamous families, the coefficient of inbreeding reached alarming levels of up to 25%, equivalent to the genetic sharing between parent and child." Both researchers documented the profound psychological and social impact. Daniel Dawson, 14, born from a complex web of cousin marriages, had distinctive features that made him a target for ridicule on rare outside contacts. He kept his gaze down constantly, reported Fleming, and spoke in almost inaudible whispers, showing clear signs of deep social trauma. Martha Dawson confided to Fleming about the silent despair of young women in the community. "Nobody asks what we want," she said. "When the time comes, they simply tell us who we're going to marry. Some try to run away, but where to go? Without education, without money, without knowing anyone." The Mallisters, the third original family, presented a revealing contrast. A family dispute in the 1920s led some young members to leave, forcing those who remained to seek partners elsewhere. Consequently, genetic conditions were notably less prevalent in their younger generation. "My father used to say that pure blood was strong blood," William Mallister, 61, told Fleming. "After I saw my nephews being born that way, I started to think differently. Medical records documented polyactyly, syndactyly, microcephaly, heart defects, and cognitive impairments. A disturbing pattern emerged. With each successive generation of consanguineous marriage, the severity of conditions and infant mortality increased. In families with the longest history, up to 60% of children died before age 5. Investigations also revealed a vicious social cycle. As the physical effects of inbreeding became more evident, families isolated themselves further, fearing stigma, which in turn intensified the genetic problem. What we witness here, concluded Fleming, is not just a medical tragedy, but a human one. In 1953, the situation took a dramatic turn when 16-year-old Ruth Dawson escaped, reaching the town of Harland. Found by police and taken to a hospital, Dr. James Harrington noted her clear signs of congenital malformations consistent with prolonged consanguinity. Ruth had fled to avoid an arranged marriage with her 42-year-old maternal uncle. "I saw what happened to my cousins," she said. "I saw how their children were born. I didn't want that for myself." Her case, though reported with limited details in the Harland Daily Enterprise, triggered a state response. A delegation arriving in May 1953 found the valley abandoned, cabins empty with signs of a hasty departure. Months later, hunters revealed the Dawsons had relocated to an even more remote area in the Cumberland Mountains. Self-imposed isolation can be stronger than any external intervention, observed Dr. Fleming. Under state protection, Ruth faced immense challenges adapting. She was terrified the first time she saw a television, a social worker reported. Her 1955 anonymous interview offered a rare glimpse. "As long as I can remember, I heard the outside world was dangerous and sinful. When children were born different, my grandfather said it was because someone had disobeyed, bringing a curse to our family." She described a system where marriages were decided by male elders, with suicide as a not uncommon escape for young women. The 1960s brought federal attention to Appalachia through the War on Poverty. In 1964, a mobile medical team led by Dr. Margaret Holloway found the dispersed Dawson community. "I have never witnessed such a high concentration of genetic conditions," she wrote. In one cabin, she met a woman named Sarah, approximately 20, caring for 3 children. Sarah revealed she was both mother and first cousin to them, casually pointing to a photo of their father, her uncle. Another site held 2 adult siblings with their 3 children, the eldest unable to speak properly or walk well due to malformations. These families are trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of extreme poverty, ignorance, and disease, concluded Holloway. Resistance to assistance was strong, families often disappeared before follow-up visits. A 1967 documentary attempt was largely frustrated, but interviews briefly spoke with James Dawson, about 40, living alone in a mountain cabin. He had extra fingers, kept hidden in gloves. "My family has always been here," he said. "The world down there has no place for people like us." The director's notes reflected, the tragedy is not just in the medical conditions, but in the complete dehumanization these people have suffered. A 1972 genealogical study revealed the 3 original families were already interrelated before settling, descending from a small group of Scotch-Irish settlers in the 1820s. "This is an extreme case of the founder effect," concluded the study, a perfect storm of genetic homozygosity. The 1980s reduced Appalachian isolation through mining, roads, and telecommunications. In 1983, Dr. Catherine Reynolds led a new genetic study, locating 37 dispersed descendants. Published in 1986, it found significantly higher levels of homozygosity and identified 14 rare genetic variants at frequencies up to 20 times the national average. One participant, Michael Dawson, 42, had been adopted out as a child. Born with syndactyly and heart problems, he became an accountant. After reconnecting with his roots in 1979, he found distant cousins living in severe poverty with health issues. One cousin, Joseph, told him, "We're not special. We're just what happens when people are too afraid of the world out there." Reynolds' study showed the genetic legacy persisted even among those who married outside the family. Recessive conditions continued to appear at high frequencies. By 1990, an informal census identified about 120 direct descendants across 3 states, 70% with some related medical condition. What began as a story of 3 isolated families resulted a century later in a diaspora of suffering, concluded Reynolds. In 1997, documentarians found only ruins and an abandoned cemetery in the original valley. They interviewed Emma Hartley, 78, in a Tennessee nursing home. She had escaped in 1951 with her young son, who died at 12 from a heart condition. "I carry that guilt with me every day," she said. The 2002 study by Drive Thomas Richardson used advanced DNA analysis to identify distinctive genetic signatures, with certain mutations 40 times more common. Cases like Amanda Dawson's, born 1975, showed how variants could cause problems even when parents were not close relatives but shared distant ancestry. In 2005, Dr. Jennifer Morris launched a genetic education project in Appalachia. Participant Robert Mallister, 45, discovered he carried 3 rare variants. 2 of his 3 children had inherited some. "Discovering this connection with a past I didn't know existed was shocking, but also enlightening," he said. Morris's 2010 study found 35% of over 500 participants carried at least one such variant. A 2015 genetic heat map showed high concentrations in urban areas like Knoxville and Charleston, where descendants had migrated. What began as an extremely localized phenomenon transformed into a genetic legacy affecting a much larger area, Morris explained. A 2020 study estimated up to 75,000 people in Appalachian states may carry these variants, most unaware of their connection. Today, nearly 75 years after Drive Caldwell's visit, the original valley is deserted. Descendants are dispersed nationwide, some bearing visible marks, others carrying invisible genetic legacies. The topic remains sensitive, but for researchers, it stands as a powerful case study. As Dr. Morris stated in 2022, the history of the Pine Mountain families is a powerful reminder of the fundamental interconnection of all human beings and the profound risks of isolation, geographic, social, or genetic. When communities completely close themselves off, the consequences can echo for generations. If you watched until here, it's because you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment saying I watched until here, so I can get to know who really likes the stories here. Don't forget to like and share this video. Check if you're already subscribed. Stories like the Dawsons are preserved thanks to your support. Each subscription helps us continue investigating cases official history would prefer to forget.